The Duke of Cambridge was clear from the start he did not want aides to say anything about the other households after he saw reports when his parents Prince Charles and Princess Diana split, according to a source. The insider added that William is in a much better place with the press than his younger brother Prince Harry. The source told, "William was clear from the start we were never to brief and never to say anything about anyone in the other households. He'd lived through that in the 90s with his parents and the War of the Waleses and doesn't ever want it happening again. He's in a much better place, with the press, than his brother, and the things that would bother him don't. Harry will hopefully get there too." There was a real hope that Harry would be able to bury his demons, and William did try to help him. But it didn't work. The claim comes after the first episode of the two-part The Princes and the Press program, presented by Amol Rajan, an avowed Republican. The documentary explores the relationship between William and Harry, who have been at the center of an ongoing rift, and the media. The program includes suggestions of royal sources briefing journalists behind the scenes. During the documentary, the Sussexes' biographer Omid Scobie claimed negative stories about the couple came from other royal households. Mr. Scobie alleged, "There has been a lot of rumors for some time that a lot of the most damaging and negative stories about Harry and Meghan, that have ended up in the pages of the press, have come from the other royal households or from other royal aides or courtiers. From my own experience that is true." But Peter Hunt, former BBC royal correspondent, said, "That did not happen a chunk of the time I was doing the royal family. You have to assume that they would have only done it if they had the approval of their principal. I guess it's an indication of what, at that point, wasn't in the public domain, which was the fracturing of the relationship between these two brothers." Besides, a trial set up in the wake of the News of the World, a now-defunct newspaper, phone hacking scandal in 2014 suggested that members of the royal family including Harry, William and Kate may have been targets. The scandal was explored during the BBC's new two-part series, The Princes and the Press. Here, Peter Hunt, the BBC's former royal correspondent from 2003 to 2017, revealed that Harry, at the time of the trial, was desperate to do an interview with him for the broadcaster. He said, "I remember a conversation with Harry where I said, 'Oh, you should do an interview, you should talk about it, because it clearly really exercises you.' And then the person with the hand arrived and he left. But then I spoke subsequently to the person with the hand and they said that he got in the car and he kept saying, 'Why can't I do this interview with Peter? I want to talk about hacking.'" Clive Goodman, former royal editor at the News of the World, had previously pleaded guilty to illegally intercepting phone messages from Clarence House and was imprisoned for 4 months in January 2007. His co-conspirator Glenn Mulcair was sentenced to 6 months. Mr. Goodman was also sacked from News of the World but received a £240,000 settlement from News International. According to News International, the payments were made because his dismissal was unfair as they had failed to follow statutory procedures. News of the World folded in 2011. In 2014, Mr. Goodman was involved in a criminal trial that explored the allegations in further detail, the court hearing about alleged hacking of the communications of Harry, William, and Kate. On June 30, 2014, the trial judge, Mr. Justice Saunders, announced that Mr. Goodman and the News of the World's former editor, Andy Coulson, would face a retrial on the outstanding charges. The following year, on April 18, 2015, Mr. Goodman was found formally not guilty of all charges at the Central Criminal Court. Mr. Coulson was sentenced to 18 months in prison, but only went on to serve 5 before being released in November 2014. Unlike Harry, who has continued in his legal battle against the phone hacking scandal, William and the rest of the family appear to have given up their case. Mr. Hunt suggested it was because the firm feared the repercussions of the press turning against them. When asked by the program's presenter, Amol Rajan, what the rationale behind the person with the hand's decision not to allow Harry to do the interview, Mr. Hunt said, "I think the rationale is the same rationale as to why William has thrown in the towel on it, that they have accepted that it may not be in their best interest to unnecessarily antagonize significant sections of the British press."